You know, on some ships, the engineer captain, and I've seen this watching different replays over the last few months here. Sometimes the engineer captain can be a major boon. Now, we're talking about a junker here. Parts are a little spread out at times. The lower engine is hard to get to. I'm just going to be plain with that. Hard to get to. But the rest of the stuff, the top deck, it might work to their advantage to have a captain instead of having the extra different speed changes, vertical changes, things like that. It'd be helpful to have one that can actually repair.
Well, in my heart of hearts, having flown junkers myself, I think that the extra maneuverability that a pilot has is important. But I guess we'll see what happens as this match is about to begin. I believe I am doing loadouts for red side, and you are going to do it for blues. So I shall get started. Yeah, on the lusty Argonian maid, we have a Artemis front, a rocket carousel Hades right side, a double Artemis left side. So that is, of course, the trifecta Artemis build of that junker. On the Ugly Betty, number 4, we have Artemis front, double Artemis left side, and carronade mortar right side. So Artemis trifectas on both junkers. If you'd like to do the other teams' loadouts, please.
The blue side, here on the blue side, the, oh dear. Akela is not a spider, apparently. That's the goldfish. Captain by Master Mad Maverick. Hawacha fish. Hawacha right on the front with double Gatlings on the sides. Then in the number 4 spot, over at the Mentlegon. Mentlegon? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. A Pyramidian. Piloted by Chief Navigator Captain Knight Ralix. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. We have on the very front, that looks like a Hades. I love seeing the Hades. We have a flat cannon as well, side flamethrowers, and a Banshee on the far back.
Yes, indeed, and I believe that it's pronounced Intelgen. I think it's a sort of a mocking misspelling of the gentleman's name.
Oh, the spy from TF2, okay.
Yes, well, anyway, it looks like action's already gone underway here. Maverick, I mean, true to his name, is way ahead of the Mentalgen here. Completely isolated on his own. However, the Mentalgen is able to provide long-range fire with that Hades.
The Hades is a very tricky weapon. People have been eager to call it a difficult weapon, and it is. As the Goldfish comes in to get some very heavy fire on the lusty Argonian maid, that means Ugly Betty's going to be out on its own, trying to take down the firepower of that Pyramidian, but can it actually disable that Pyramidian before it starts losing hull?
Oh, car going down here from the lusty Argonian maid. Akela just avoids getting caught up in it. Looks to me like the Ugly Betty's got the mental gen largely disabled, and looks like Akela's got the lusty Argonian maid largely disabled. Now we've seen this before from the Akela, the side batlings to strip the armor, and then the Thatcher to finish off the hull. Are they going to be able to pull it off this time against the gentleman?
It's an extremely effective combination. Make sure the Gatling has a decent sight range on it.
Oh, but Akela's armor's gone down. The balloon's gone down as well. Akela's taking a lot of damage.
They're not looking hot right now. Their hull is severely on fire. They've lost their hull. Their perma-hull is going down. Really holding on. Perma-hull once again exposed. They are going to lose it unless they do something drastic right now.
One more mortar shot would do it to the unarmored hull. Looking quite grim for the Akela as Akela desperately tries to pull evasive maneuvers.
This is an incredibly tough situation now, but oh good, the Metal Gen is now on its own. 2v1, never a combination that any ship, even one of the heavily armored galleons, wants to be involved with. 2v1 is never going to be something you can come out on the proper end of.
Well, there have been a few exceptions to that rule, but generally, yes, you are correct, as the Mental Gen wisely decides to back off as fast as possible. Now, I don't know, do you think the Akela can get back in time, or do you think trying to assist the Mental Gen would be a meat grind in this situation?
I think with how well the Mental Gen is playing the defensive game, they're backing up into a very well-covered dust cloud, rather. I honestly think if they came in and supported, or if they swept around on the side, it wouldn't be a bad situation. It looks like that's what the Akela is going to do, too. Sweep along the far left side.
This is the problem with the double junker build. You can't chase top speed is very low, and you've only got, you know, one front gun. As we've seen, the Mental Gens been able to get away, and is now coming back in again, allowing a 2-on-2 engage. Only one ship was lost that first engage. It was not a complete wipe. That's because those Junkers cannot chase.
Unfortunately,
However,
the Goldfish
balloon is down.
Yeah, the Goldfish tried to come in for a balloon ram on the Ugly Betty, but it barely did anything at all. Didn't even touch the permahull. Not even, maybe a couple damage guns. That was it. And unfortunately, put the Akela in a very bad position. Forced them down below the Ugly Betty and into a direct firing line with the Lusty Argonian made.
Oh,
good lord.
Weasel.
That Pyramidian, he really thought he could have just a clean sweep with both those ships looking at the Akela. He thought he could just come in and start picking apart the Ugly Betty. Not the situation. Ugly Betty, very good gunners on that ship.
Keller needs to hit those Watchers, and it needs to do consistent disabling, or it's just not pulling its weight. And it hasn't been pulling its weight, and it's taking a lot of damage here. The hull's down, balloon's about to go down. A lot of fire damage from those Hades.
That's a very, very disabled ship right now. That Hades fire, if it can be done accurately, which unfortunately a lot of those shots are just barely... Oh, there it is, though. Just a couple different pecks, and it's gone.
Yeah, there it goes. I mean, those Junkers can't chase, but what they can do with those front Artemi is they can take out the engines, which means that if you've got your back to them, you can't get away if your engine's disabled.
But how difficult is it as a captain to point those guns in the right direction?
The Artemis, not that hard, because the Artemises have a very wide arc of fire, and they're quite easy to aim. It's not like the Merc, which requires a lot of synergy between captain and gunner. The Artemis is very versatile, very good at disabling, which is why a lot of people are actually saying the triple Artemis build, which the gentlemen are using on both ships, is overpowered. I mean, do you have a position on that?
There isn't really a good way to approach those two Junkers. They're sitting in formation right now. They have both their guns facing the direction of the hostile forces. The Akela is coming directly at them from the front cone. There's not a good way to approach this situation. There isn't.
Oh my goodness, Mental Gen just 6 Artemi just utterly tore it to pieces.
And now the Akela is all alone. I think they've realized that they are in a very unfortunate position.
Oh.
Good Hawacha shots though.
Keller's just going right on through. He's realised he can't back away. Lusty Argonian May trying to zone him out with Tar, trying to prevent him from escaping. And
his balloon's been taken out. He's going to float right into that cloud. Oh no, he's just barely going to edge away from that cloud.
He's gliding backwards. Oh, but his armor's down. He's popping drove, but it might be better if he just descended at this point. Both the ships just raining in fire. Oh, devastating 5-0 victory by the gentlemen.
That's brutal. That's really harsh. Ah, goodness. It's almost as if the Wolf and AK just didn't really have a chance against that very heavily armored, decently long-range Junker build. Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised by this. Absolutely no hesitation whatsoever to start the next game. Maverick just ticked the minute that game was over. Now, after losing 5-0 like that, I mean, normally you'd expect a team to just sort of take a minute or two to kind of compose themselves, maybe reconsider things, but, I mean, no hesitation here. Switch to double Pyrrha.
As a team, I think you plan for this kind of scenario. A good team knows what to do after they've just taken a massive loss. I mean, they lost 5-0. They didn't kill a single ship in that match. It's tough to come back from that, but they practiced it. They know what to do now.
Well, I don't think Maverick and the Aeronautical Knights have had a great deal of time to practice together. They've probably had some time, but then I wouldn't say they're exactly experienced. This is the first time we've seen Maverick fly with the Aeronautical Knights as the engagement is going down here already, and we've forgotten to do the loadouts. Oh my god.
As far as I can tell, loadout is the exact same except for the White Fang, which has a classic setup. Chain gun and a double barrel grenade launcher on the front, carronade on the side, and on the back I believe that's a beacon flare gun. Everything else is the same from last match.
Yes, indeed it is, and that'll just have to do as it looked like the White Fang took a big bounce off the ribs and has turned around completely. His balloon's down. Now he's firing on the lusty Argonian maid as the gentleman is engaging the ugly Betty. We got two one-on-one situations here. Looks to me like the Gents are getting the better of the situation. Lots of guns disabled on both the Mental Gen and the White Fang. Fires going down on the White Fang and the Mental Gen. In this battle of attrition, I think those Artemai are going to make the difference. Now I think the Gents are on the same altitude as the Mental Gen. They're going to be able to 2-on-1 it, I think.
This is a very bad situation right now for the White Fang and the Mental Gen. Unfortunately, the Ugly Betty and Lusty Argonian Maid have made formation. They've formed up, and their gun platforms are just lined up and ready to unleash. The White Fang may just go down here shortly.
Could be
Shots
right.
going out all over the place. My goodness.
Ugly Betty's balloon has gone down. Ugly Betty is descending rapidly into the Mental Gen's arc of fire as the White Fang is now firing on the Lusty Argonian Maid. This battle has been swings and roundabouts. It looks like the White Fang's going for a ram on the Lusty Argonian Maid, taking its balloon severely down. Not out yet, but the Ugly Betty's balloon is now down. It looks like they're popping those balloons. The Lusty Argonian Maid's taking devastating damage.
It's just a fight to see who. It's a fight to see who has to hit the ground first. Whoever's forced to hit the ground first. It looks like going to be the Lusty Argonian. Oh my goodness! Crossfire from both the blue ships rips the Mental Gen apart. Not the Mental Gen. I'm sorry.
Oh no! It rips the Lusty Argonian Maid apart. The Lusty Argonian Maid has respawned. However, the Ugly Betty is taking severe damage and is dead. Oh my goodness!
That was back and forth.
It was, yes. But I think this is what the Wolf Knights need to do. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the Wolf Pack, Letonator, but the Wolf Pack won more consecutive Sunday Rumbles than any other team has gotten close to doing. And they did it every single time. They did it with this double Pyramidian build, which is pretty much exactly like the one we're seeing from the Wolf Knights right now. Maverick has had a lot of success with the double Pyramidian.
Both Pyramidians have formed back up. Now, the real question is, can they keep this focused fire going? Because, as you mentioned, while that first real conflict was happening, it was extremely back and forth. Balloons went down on both sides. First the red ones, then the blue ones.
Maverick's going way out ahead again in the White Fang. The White Fang's all on his own. Oh, Maverick, you're too much of a Maverick, Tammy. He's all on his own.
Lusty Argonian Maid has him in his sight. He's about to get just screwed up here. Oh no, the Lusty Argonian Maid. What are they doing? They need to open fire. There we go.
There we go. The Lusty Argonian Maid has got the tail on the White Fang. However, the Mental Gen and the Mental Gen and the White Fang just going right for Ugly Betty, just completely ignoring the Lusty Argonian Maid. Can the Ugly Betty avoid the ram? No, he can't. Looks like the Ugly Betty. Oh, but the Ugly Betty's gone up high. He's jumped over the White Fang as the Lusty Argonian Maid continues to fire on the White Fang, taking out all its components, leaving the White Fang practically crippled. The armor's down.
While we have the White Fang crippled, the Ugly Betty, we have multiple ship fires gluing on the balloon. The hull, one of their guns, their outer hull is at half. Their balloon is going down rapidly because of that fire and because of consistent damage from the Mental Gen.
That indeed appears to be the case. The Ugly Betty's balloon is down once again. He's descending. The Lusty Argonian Maid, however, is continuing to fire on the White Fang completely unmolested. They've taken out all the components. They've taken out the hut. They're just whittling down the White Fang. The Mental Gen has to pay it. They can't continue to ignore the Lusty Argonian Maid any longer. Now it looks like they're going to try and engage it 2-on-1 here. They were able to get
the disable on the Ugly Betty, and since it was out of the picture for so long, the Lusty Argonian Maid is simply on its own. It has to fend for itself at this point. And although the White Fang is excessively disabled as the Ugly Betty comes up behind it, it's still a risk. It's a big risk. The Mental Gen has its Hades firing, but the fire is going right through the hull. It's not even hitting half the time.
The Mental Gen with his loadout isn't going to do enough damage quick enough with that Hades flak. And as you saw, the White Fang just went down there. now the Ugly Betty and the Lusty Argonian Maid and got the Mental Gen in a 2-on-1 situation. Will the Mental Gen be able to escape with its superior speed? And the White Fang, very good spawn for the White Fang. Spawned very close to the action. It all depends on how the Wolf Knights are going to leverage this good spawn.
I think the White Fang is making a very poor choice right now. He's leveling himself and aiming himself directly, and I mean directly at the Lusty Argonian Maid.
He's
he
going
wants
for
blood.
it. He's oh yes, that's Mad Maverick in a nutshell. He's going for broke here. He will either get a kill here or he will die horribly. He is rolling the dice. Continuing to fire down the Lusty Argonian Maid. The Lusty Argonian Maid tries to circle straight around the White Fang.
Big time pressure coming in from the Ugly Lady. Now White Fang is in a pincher move. He has pinched something fierce between two heavily armored junkers. I don't think this works out for the White Fang.
Look, like I said, the White Fang just went for everything here, and I don't think the gamble is going to pay off. The White Fang taking a lot of damage, getting focus fired. The Mental Gen's coming in, but it might be too little too late as the White Fang's balloon is down. Hull armor is down, all the engines are on. There's no way he's getting out of this one, surely.
I can't believe they're using duct tape and bubblegum right now to hold the White Fang together. They have nothing left. The hull, the perma hull is nearly gone. The balloon is on fire. The hull is on fire. 2 of their engines are gone. 1 of their guns are down. What do you do?
But just look at the Lusty Argonian Maid. There's so many fires there, but just barely any substantial damage from being done.
Oh, the Mental Gen's going down fast. It's going to hit that ship. Unless it does something right now, it is going to hit that ship.
Oh, it's going to be a nasty crash, I think. Oh, the White Fang and the Mental Gen are looking in a really bad way here.
Boom!
There we
White
go.
Fang, what are you going to do, White Fang? This is not a good scenario for you.
He's using impact bumpers to sort of mitigate the impact damage of crashing to the ground, but that's not going to matter because those 2 junkers are going to tear him to pieces soon enough. If I was the Mental Gen, I don't think I would try and save the White Fang at this point. I think he would be completely meat grinding, and he wisely decides to back off. Yes, and Duel, I think, will tempt you into meat grinding more than any other map because it's such a small map and it kind of gives you this feeling, oh, they're so close, maybe I can save my ally, but usually that ends up not being the case.
Right now, the Mental Gen is just hiding in this far dust cloud in the ribs, but he's quickly going to be exposed here as this dust cloud just happily floats away. Just like Bob Ross says, happy little clouds, they're going to leave though.
Right, well, I don't know where that reference is from, but I'm sure it's accurate and applies to the situation as well.
It has nothing to do with the situation.
I don't know. I mean, Papa Paradox will sometimes go on long hockey analogies with me. I don't even know anything about hockey. But anyway, what I do know is that the White Fang is charging in.
Oh no, this is a bad scenario. He is going to have his hull ripped to shreds. He already has 2 guns down.
He's kerosining in. White Fang is out for blood. He's going low, but it's not going to matter because those Artemises have great horizontal arcs. They've got great vertical arcs.
I'm kind of curious what the White Fang's choice was here. He simply charged down a central lane when he didn't really have any cloud cover whatsoever. It's reasonable to approach from a side if you have good cloud, if you have very good spread. Maybe they're not even looking that direction, but he just charged in willy-nilly. All of his stuff is on fire now. This is what you get.
Welcome to Mad Maverick. Now, White Fang is firing on the Lusty Argonian. Oh, but the White Fang is taking huge amounts of damage. Going low here. Trying to zone out the fire, but it looks like the Ugly Betty is following the White Fang down. He knows the White Fang's in a bad way. They know that Mental Gen just can't seem to do continuous substantial damage. They know that White Fang is the bigger threat. They've isolated him and they're picking him apart.
Yeah, unfortunately, they have the red team has consistently kept the Mental Gen's Hades disabled, and when it has been enabled, the fire has been relatively inaccurate, which is very tough to deal with. As a gunner, you must know how to control that arc.
Oh, yes, indeed. As a pilot, you've also got to know how to give your gunners a good arc.
That's very true. The Hades can be tricky with that.
Yes. The Ugly Betty, though, is just going to be easily be able to get continuous trifecta on the White Fangs, whittling it down. Look at all the fire, look at all the damage, it's gone.
Mental Gent's in very serious trouble right now. One more kill, and this map is done. If Mental Gent doesn't get out of here, that's tough. Tough, very tough.
The Gents rising up to intercept the Mental Gen. I think the Mental Gen should have started retreating immediately. Oh, good ram, though, on the Ugly Betty. Takes down his balloon. That might buy some time for the White Fang to get back in here, if indeed that is what the Wolf Knights want to do.
That was a very solid, if risky, choice by Relics. I like it, though. That's just a quick burst of speed forward. It wasn't more than 10 or 15 meters, but that burst of speed very much disables everything the Ugly Betty can do for the next 30 seconds.
Yes, it does, and the White Fang is coming back in here. This might be exactly what the Wolf Knights needed. If the White Fang could get some focus fire on the Ugly Betty, just desperately, they'd be needing focus fire this whole match. However, focus fire going down on the White Fang. Again, they're firing on the more dangerous ship, and they've already got his armor down. The White Fang's in huge trouble here. The hull health, the perma-hull's going down. Almost
Cloud's
everything's
gone.
on fire. Oh, it's all over. A victory.
Very unfortunate. I really wish the White Fang hadn't just charged in like that. Obviously, they couldn't predict the Cloud just disappearing like that. It's hard to predict that. But at the same time, why would you do that?
I don't think the Cloud factored into Maverick's decision-making there.
Probably didn't either.
Anyway, the gentlemen win this series 2-0, which means that they go on to face the Flying Dutchman in Match B.